I'm a competitive person. That became evident to me pretty early. It was the second week of kindergarten. Mrs. Russell gave a challenge to the class. She wanted to create a content and challenge each student to catch a grasshopper, bring it to class, and the grasshopper that lived the longest wins. I love to win. My mind started racing. I was super excited about this challenge. Like any competitive endeavor, to win is to find an edge. So my mind started activating on what that edge would be immediately. But while that was happening, I could hear rumblings from other students. There were kids that were worried about touching a grasshopper. They were asking, am I going to have to touch the grasshopper to bring it into class? That wasn't my concern. I rushed home that afternoon. I go into the house, I grab a paper grocery sack, I cut it in half sideways, and I took it out to the backyard. I'm thinking, if this is good, if I'm going to win, I'm going to need the most strong, the most durable grasshopper there is. And so I'm asking myself, am I looking in tall grass? Am I looking in short grass? Am I looking in my backyard? Am I looking at the park? I spent the next 30 minutes catching about 10 grasshoppers. I wasn't going to leave this to chance. I'm holding this bag and I'm studying these little bugs like they are thoroughbreds. And I'm at the racetrack. I picked one. I picked a green one. My theory was that green signified youth. It was young and had lots of life ahead of it. I start plucking the other 9 out. I turned the bottom of the bag into a habitat. I put some fresh grass in there, put a cover on it, and then I waited till the next morning, took it to school, and I start watching the other kids bring their grasshoppers in immediately. I knew I had an edge. There were kids that were carrying their grasshopper in a Ziploc bag. I don't know if they even punched a hole for air. I've got this. Who thinks I won the grasshopper contest? I need more hands than that. I crushed it. Most grasshoppers in that class barely made it to Friday. Mine made it to Halloween. Durability wins. And in that story, in that contest, I learned a critical lesson that has carried with me through my career. Every career is an endurance race. And durability is what actually creates winning in the long run. Durability is the opposite of fragility, and it doesn't have comfort as a key ingredient. One of the challenges that we have is that as a society, there's evidence that we are getting less durable. We're getting more anxious. We're getting more fearful. We are less hopeful for the future. I don't need a chart to illustrate this because we all watch the news. We can even feel that fragility around us a lot of times. This emotional state has carried over into the workplace. I've spent 23 years operating a human resource technology firm, and that takes me to a lot of HR conferences. And a couple years ago, I started asking the question, why is everybody talking about emotions all the time? So I'm curious about that, but I want to make sure, is this just me? Am I just listening? Am I just hearing what I think I'm hearing? So I go back to 2019, and I look at all the HR conferences that I went to, and then I created a word cloud of the key words in the presentation titles. This is where our profession learns. This is where they go to learn. So I created a word cloud of the most frequently used terms in this learning material. The top 5 words were all pretty strategic in nature. They were things like employee experience and data transformation, or the future of work, organizational strategy, even technology transformation. Big data was in there. I fast forward to 2025, and I do the same thing on HR conferences that have happened this year. And the results are very different. They're all emotion-based terms. They're words like well-being, stress, empathy, work-life balance. I think organizational attention on mental health is a good thing. But I do worry that this giant spotlight of attention is going to amplify emotional noise. The more we fixate on anxiety, the more we will feel anxious. The more we fixate on stress, the more stressed we feel. The challenge is that this emotional well-being is really best managed, best owned at the individual level, not the organization level. Gallup has data that says 30 million fewer Americans today are satisfied with their personal life than just 5 years ago. That's their personal life. That's a problem your manager can't solve. How did we get here? There are two historical transformations that we've gone through in the last 20 years that created this situation in this push towards more emotional workplaces. The first we call the war for talent. It's simply the phenomenon that as the economy grew and jobs were created at record levels, we actually were creating jobs at a faster pace than we were creating humans. So employers had to start thinking differently. They had to start marketing to attract and to retain talent differently because they had more roles than they had people to fill them. The second historical phenomenon is clearly the pandemic. Simply said, it weakened the commitment that so many employees have to their work. The noise that surrounds these phenomenons, this phenomena, is impacted how we manage our people, how we communicate with our people. And the more we optimize for emotion, it turns out the more we design for comfort. This happened even in my own firm. I remember being in an executive leadership meeting, and one leader is positioning or presenting the idea to run one of our teams through a new training regimen because this was a team that was coming up short on its goals. And immediately upon getting this idea out, another leader is like, whoa, this isn't going to work because this is a team that already feels overworked, and anything else they will reject, they will resist because it's new responsibility. Now, true or not, this leader was prioritizing comfort over growth. And it's that continuous, that compounding prioritization that has created a fragile workplace, a more fragile workplace. In our well-intended effort to create more friendly workplaces, we've actually and accidentally created fragile cultures. We have prioritized comfort over challenge, and we've even gotten soft. There are two, one's a social scientist and one is a lawyer, and they wrote a book called Coddling of the American Mind. Now, they were focused primarily on college campuses, but they said, hey, this fragility that I've been talking about is actually predicated on two lies that we're telling ourselves. The first lie is that that we always have to trust our emotions. The second lie is that hard experiences make you weaker. That sounds the opposite of what we were used to learning when I was growing up in the 80s. But this fragility is actually driving performance to be more mediocre. In the last 2 years, in the last 2 years, 27% of the S&P 500 companies, their stock growth is outperforming the average of all 500 companies. 27% winners, that means 73% are underperforming that average of all 500. That 27% is the lowest number on record in the last 30 years. There are companies that are understanding this trend, and they have something in common. There are companies like Netflix, Microsoft, Coinbase, NVIDIA, and they all share the same attitude. Their leadership all shares the same point of view on emotions in the workplace. this fast-paced data, the noise that we're having to decipher, is different than not too long ago when we actually relied on slower media, where we learned from, does anybody remember books? Books take a long time to write. They actually take a long time to read, but they are usually pretty good at connecting the dots between insight and application. But the truth is that Americans are spending 40% less time reading books today than they were just 20 years ago. What do we do about this? Because durability wins. How do we become more durable? There are 3 habits of durable leaders. The first is really a mindset. And it's the idea that we have to be, as leaders, 100% committed to success and 100% committed to care. These aren't 2 competing forces. We're not trying to balance these 2 things. 100% committed to care, 100% committed to performance. And to recognize that as the leader is to accept the fact that caring for somebody is actually considering their long-term success. Care and success are 2 things, are 2 of the same thing. The second habit of durable leaders is to normalize debate. Make disagreement a feature of your culture, not a bug. It's in a meeting, inviting somebody to say, hey, take the other side of this. Could you build an argument against this? It's celebrating dissent when it leads to a better outcome. I love the musical Hamilton. Does anybody know in Hamilton when President George Washington organizes the battles, the rap battles, somebody, me could perform that maybe? The second habit of durable leaders is normalizing debate. The third habit is scaffolding your talent, not shielding them. Scaffolding is my term for coming up beside. It's not protecting an employee from hard work. It's coming up beside them. It's supporting them. It's asking them. It's not pulling anything off their plate. It's making sure that you're affirming that hard work matters. Building the support around them, encouraging them, coaching them up, asking, hey, what is it going to take to support you? My goal today is to make durability cool. My goal is also today to make fragility something less than cool, something to be managed. And we do that through the concept of conditioning. We have to rebrand our attitudes about hard experience. Be the employee that takes on hard experiences. Be the manager that coaches your team to hard effort. Be the green grasshopper that outlasts the others. Be durable in a world even if you're the only one. Why? Because durability wins. Thank you.